What's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of Cleveland Kids Sports Talk. This week we're going to be doing something a little bit different from last week. Instead of just going over the simple basics of the NFL, we're going to be going over basically a special edition of Why Are You Mad? I'm going to be telling you what I'm frustrated with from week to week in the NFL, and this week we're going to be talking about the Eagles. Chip Kelly, what did you do to our Eagles? This was a team that had absolute promise coming out of 2013 and 2014 season. The 2013 season, your first year in the NFL, made the playoffs, won the East. Great. You got beat by the Saints in the first round. No problem. I'm fine with that. At least we made the playoffs. 486 yards average per game. Only 1.2 turnovers and 28 points a game. Finished out 10-6. Great year for your first year in the NFL. Overcame some adversity with some injuries. Mike Vick went down. Nick Foles took over with absolutely zero problem. No problem whatsoever. None. Nick Foles had a great year. 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble. Absolutely phenomenal year for a young kid. Then in 2014, had some great additions. Picked up people exactly where you needed to. Brian Brayman helping out on special teams. Nolan Carroll from Buffalo helped with the secondary. Malcolm Jenkins, great safety from New Orleans, coming out of Ohio State. Chris Marigot helped out at safety as well. Great special teams player. Big pickups were Darren Sproles and Cody Parkey. Cody Parkey beating out Alex Henry for the kicker spot. The guy only missed 3 field goals. Had a great year. Darren Sproles still to date is doing everything that he needs to do. Returning punts for touchdowns, returning kicks, giving you 50 yards out of the backfield, giving you a receiving threat out of the backfield. You still retain guys like Nate Allen, Riley Cooper, Donnie Jones, one of the best punters in the NFL, in my opinion. And Jeremy Maclin came back on that 1 year, show me what you can do. And you only lost a defensive tackle, which you drafted Bo Allen and Benny Logan, so what did we really need him for? 2014, I understand. You had problems with turnovers. It happens. Nick Foles, a young guy, he's still going to go through his problems. You're still going to go have that young, talented player who's going to commit turnovers, who isn't absolutely NFL ready. You got him in the 6th round from Arizona. He's not a first-round quarterback. You can't expect the guy to come out and wing the ball for 27 touchdowns and only have 2 picks two straight years. It was a phenomenal year, absolutely. I'll give Nick Foles his credit where credit's due. He had a great year, but you can't expect him to repeat that in 2014. The offensive line had some injuries, so LaShawn McCoy didn't look quite as good. But the guy still rushed for 1,300 yards. Over 2 seasons, that guy rushed for over 3,000 yards for you. He deserves his credit. He deserves his money. Why would you ask him to take a pay cut? He doesn't have the attitude. He's not a Chip Kelly guy, okay? We understand that not everybody can be a Chip Kelly guy. Maybe you need some egos in that locker room to get some W's. But, 2014, still a promising season with all the injuries. Still ended up 10-6. Didn't quite make it into the playoffs. Dallas ended up 11-5, won that division. Dallas has a great squad down there. At the time, the NFL rushing leader, DeMarco, who is now an Eagle. Des Bryant just signed his big contract down there. Tony Romo is literally over the last 5 years has the best QBR in the league, and we refuse to notice that just because he hasn't won a playoff game, which is absolutely ridiculous. As an Eagles fan, I hate playing against the guy, but I respect the guy. In 2014, he still ended up with 409 yards per game, 2.5 turnovers. It's understandable, At least we were moving the football. We're moving the football down the field. So there's promise in that, right? Jeremy Maclin had one of the best seasons to date with you last year. Deshaun Jackson, one of the best seasons to date. Um, Still ended up with almost 30 points a game. Yes, turnovers were a big part, but the defense has to step up at some point as well. Um, and then 2015, what the offseason was one hugely exciting. I was very excited about the squad that Chip Kelly put together. Very questionable on some of the moves. LaShawn McCoy for Kiko Alonso was absolutely terrible. Like I said earlier in the video, the guy rushed for over 3,000 yards in 2 years for you, and you want to trade him for a linebacker with coming off an ACL injury. I understand he was the defensive rookie of the year and was third in the NFL in tackles his rookie year, but you're giving up one of your most key pieces in that offense for a guy coming off an ACL injury and was still widely unproven. Second, the Sam Bradford trade. Let's get realistic here. The guy, I understand he didn't have weapons down in St. Louis. Injuries. The guy hasn't played in 25 straight games, and you expect him to come in and run one of the most complex offenses in the NFL right now. And let's be honest, your offense might be too complex at this point because you have so many new pieces. Let's look here. Who'd you add? You added DeMarco Murray, who came in on a ridiculous contract that you never should have signed him. I understand DeMarco Murray is coming off one of the best seasons that he's had in his entire career, but 5 years, $60 million, and you already had 2 running backs on your roster. Bring in Ryan Matthews. Byron Maxwell was the key piece that we wanted to bring in this year. I understand, given the guy a 6-year, $63 million contract. A lot of people say that they signed him for way too much money, but you got to understand he's the top cornerback on the market, and he's going to get his money at that point. If you're the top cornerback in a free agency market, you're not going to sign for chump change, regardless if you're a Richard Sherman or Joe Hayden lockdown corner, or if you're just a number 2 in a great secondary. You're going to get your money. C.I. Ejiro Tutu, special teams player. Like I said, Kiko Alonso coming off the ACL injury, LaShawn McCoy. Brad Jones, linebacker from Green Bay. He's filling in, doing a special teams thing. Walter Thurman converted to safety, already has 2 picks. Give him credit there. You retain Brandon Graham, which I love the sign. The guy had great numbers for just being a fill-in linebacker last year. Mark Sanchez, I think he's the best. I will say this to anybody. I think he's the best backup quarterback in the NFL at this point. The guy posted career best last year and playing 9 games out. You got to give him credit for stepping in and, almost taking this team to the playoffs. And you retain Cedric Thornton. Good defensive end, puts pressure on the quarterback. Good fit in that 3-4 defense over there. So I like who you retained. I'm just saying some of your moves were very, very questionable at best. You lose guys like LaShawn McCoy and Nick Foles, like I said earlier, to 2 very real questionable trades. Jeremy Maclin posted career best in your offense, and you want to let him walk for $1 million a year. You're already offering the guy a 5-year, $50 million contract. Give him 5-year, $55, and retain him on your team because the guy was more than willing to work with you on that. Kansas City offered him that $55 million contract, and it wasn't like an instant oh, yeah, let's go to Kansas City. No, he gave you time to rebuttal that. But no, you wanted to be stingy with your money. Well, I won't even say stingy with your money because you weren't stingy in free agency. You allotted that 5-year, $60 million for Devin McCourty, and as soon as he signed to New England, it's next guy on the list. Who are we going to sign? DeMarco Murray? All right, let's go, even though we already have 2 great running backs on our roster. Nate Allen, whatever. He's a so-so safety. Evan Mathis and Todd Hermans are my 2 that really blow my mind. Evan Mathis, you cut him. He's an all-pro guard. All-pro. And he's making too much money. Pro Football Focus had him as the number 1 rated guard in the NFL, and you don't want to give him his money. Whatever. I understand that. Bradley Fletcher, terrible cornerback. Trent Cole, You cut him. He had an injury history throughout his time with Philadelphia. Whatever. James Casey, who was kind of your third string tight end guy, cut. That's fine. Casey Matthews. Casey Matthews was your field general last year whenever your middle linebackers went out, and you just let him walk for nothing. I understand that you had your eyes set on whoever you wanted, filling guys like Kiko and Brad Jones, but you are already short now because Michael Kendricks is hurt. Kiko Alonso's hurt again, who they say he's going to be back in 6 weeks just after rehab, but let's be honest here. The guy's coming off an ACL injury, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit to see that guy miss the rest of the season trying to rehab a bum knee again. Chris Polk, I understand you had a crowded backfield, but that's your Jeremy Hill. That is your goal line back. Darren Sproles, 5'9", great player. He's your Swiss Army knife, but he's not a goal line back. And LaShawn McCoy is more of an elusive, get me down the field running back, not a goal line back. So, to me, Chris Polk is your give him 3 carries and ends up with 2 touchdowns kind of guy. You didn't give him his opportunities. And you lost Kerry Williams. He's now out in Seattle, having a decent year over with that secondary. But the big point that I want to come to is you're 1-3. With all these new additions on your team, you have now only scored 19.3 points a game. 19. This is a team that scored 30 points. 30 points a game last year and over 400 yards. So at this point, you're at 294 yards a game, 19.3 points, and averaging 2 turnovers. Remember, turnovers is what killed you last year. Turnovers is the reason that you didn't make the playoffs. You only registered one game without a turnover, and this year you have yet to register a single game without a turnover, even though you say how safe Sam Bradford is with the ball. I don't care how safe you are with the ball. If you have all these moving pieces, you're going to struggle. And let me be honest, there's no sign of improvement to me. Sam Bradford had 2 plays last week that got him 74 yards to Riley Cooper. And without those 2 plays, one being a touchdown, a 60-yard touchdown catch, without those 2 plays, you're looking at another mediocre week of 200 yards passing from Sam Bradford and 2 touchdowns at best. So when are all these moves going to pay off? That is my question to you. That's this week's segment of Cleveland Kid Sports Talk. This will be a weekly thing. Tell me why you're mad in the comments. Make sure you click like, subscribe to the channel, share this video,